Okay, hello there, traders. Welcome to TOGS Trading Podcast, TOGS 28. Here we are today to talk about traders in the media, and in particular, who is worth following and why. If you're joining us for the first time, TOGS Trading Podcast is really it's really just the conversations that myself and a fellow trader Ian had in pubs in Dublin, and basically turned into a podcast to give you a little bit of insight into what the reality of life is like as a trader, as opposed to some of the rather dubious pieces and reels that you see on certain social media platforms. So, as always, okay, I'm joined by Ian here in Dublin. Looking good,
Hello.
Billy Ray. How are you
Thank you very
doing?
much. All right. I have to say my own trading has been underperforming for the last week, but apart from that, it's okay. Just one of those periods of time, just couldn't be bothered with it. I was a little bit sick yesterday. I had guests on Monday.
Yeah.
My people staying with me. So I lost the Friday, lost the Monday, lost the previous Monday. I had something else to do the previous. My son was off. Oh, school was closed. And just the rest of the days, I had one good day, and the rest of it was just bleh. And it was me. It was all me, basically. It wasn't just one of those
There you go.
periods of,
Well, there you go. You're being honest about it, stuff. So I am,
yeah.
as I mentioned last week, I'm still operating under a psychological stop loss. My dad's still in hospital. He's not as critical as he was a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, whilst he's still in hospital, I'm bouncing back and forth and stuff between there and what have you. The stop loss is in place, which is perhaps maybe not a bad thing for the swing trading, because actually I think now here we are, what's this, 16th of October. I think these next 2 or 3 weeks are we're just going to coil up in front of the Japanese elections and the US elections and the UK budget. I don't think anybody's making any huge major decisions in front of those three sessions. So it wouldn't surprise me if if we get just prices coiling up before that, or before that releases that energy. But there you go. I'm sure others will have different views, won't they, Ian, and stuff, which
Mm,
kind of brings us to the sort of the main thrust of our session today, which was all about the traders that we see in the media, and in particular,
mm.
who is worth following, or why would you follow them? What's your own views, Ian? What are your own thoughts?
Well, I thought I'd start off with what's the characteristics. Like if I'm going to follow somebody on YouTube, what's the characteristics I want to see in that YouTube content provider person? Um, Live trading is probably number one. There has to be some sort of access to their live trading, and it has to be actual live, non-selective trades, so that there's some way that you can see that they're actually trading, see what they're actually doing, and that's in real time, and that's a way of being able to grade them, to a certain extent, to see if they are actually real or if they're not real. Because it's you get an awful lot of content providers that are just putting up stuff after the fact. In fact, I was doing research for this. The amount of scams in it, I was actually surprised.
Yeah,
So I think live trading is a huge big thing. I think just a characteristic of humbleness, because every real trader I've ever met that actually trades for a living is actually quite humble, because we've all been through hell to get
yeah,
where you're aiming. Like. So
yeah.
um, an
We've all
acknowledgement
been
of,
through the ringer.
yeah, an acknowledgement of how hard it is from the people themselves, the traders themselves, besides, because a lot of lifestyle traders are all like, well, it's so easy. All you have to do is this. And you see them having losing periods, because it's like, as I was just saying, like, I mean, I'm not losing any money at the moment. I'm just not making
Yeah,
any money.
yeah, yeah,
So everybody, and that's a normal part of the job. So you're going to have to see, you want to see them, basically, and that gives you a model of success, and it also gives you a model of how to see how they handle those periods, because that's one of the hardest things that you have to do, is to and that's why live trading, I think, is so important, because you get to model the person. It's not their setup so much,
yeah.
set up double bottom, there you go, but how they are consistent, how they bet, how they handle losses, all those kinds of things are more important, I think.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, those are all yeah, those are all valid points. Those are all good points and stuff. And yeah, you're right and stuff. It is trading does keep you humble, doesn't it? And there's
Mm.
if you meet a trader who isn't humble or who has not been through the ringer at some point in their trading career, they're probably not really a trader and stuff. Everybody goes through the ringer at certain times in certain phases of their trading career, and ultimately it's how you respond to that. It's how you respond to that. Lots of people, that's when they fade away, or it gets too hard for them, or they choose a different path, and we're all humans on our own journey. That's absolutely fine. But it's normally, it's how you respond to that, to that ringer. It's a sign that there's some growth happening or has to happen. It's a sign that some internal change is either happening or has to happen. Or it's a case of, the way you're doing business is just not conducive either to running it as a business or conducive to your way of operating. And once again, change either is occurring or it has to occur in some way and stuff. So certainly in terms of keeping humble, that is absolutely spot on and stuff. And I'm always wary because, of course, I get to go to lots of trading conferences or speak at trading conferences, etc. And the honest truth is, you see the good, the bad, and the ugly. You see the good, the bad, and the ugly in some individuals. Okay, I don't necessarily have a huge problem if someone is arrogant, but they have the skills and the talent to back that up. I don't really have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with, and what I see a lot of, is people are arrogant, but they just do not have the skills or the talent to back it up, and they're actually using their arrogance to cover up their fear and ignorance, and to basically almost bully other people into their way of doing things and stuff. So I see quite a bit of that, and it was kind of, I find it a bit distasteful. I'm not a particularly big fan of bullies, shall we say? But yeah, that might be a different story for a different day, mightn't it?
Yeah, what I was going to say with the arrogant thing is, some of the traders that I've dealt with are completely that are real traders that I know for 10 years or something, are completely the opposite of arrogance. They're really quite humble, and sometimes I think almost too humble, because you hear your own words. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
you self-describe yourself as not the best trader in the world, or whatever it is, whatever the particular expression is, and that's something that can go into your psyche, because you're not exactly talking yourself up most of the time.
Yeah.
I've also seen other traders as well, because you see these guys that are very arrogant, and have this, or have this particular lifestyle, this sort of rock star lifestyle type thing, Lamborghinis and attractive ladies and all that kind of stuff. And then you come across traders every once in a while who are actually successful, but don't think they're successful because they have a false image of success, because they have the image of, if you were looking at James Bond films as a lifestyle channel, your lifestyle is not going to match up to it. So you have a false image of success, a false image of how all that works. So I've met traders with a false image of success, who are much more successful than they actually acknowledge themselves or understand themselves, I think, to a certain extent.
Yep.
One of the things I was gonna people, I suppose, what I could do with people who I wouldn't follow. Anybody with tattoos.
Anyone with tattoos? That's an interesting opening gambit. I wasn't expecting that, Ian. Where's that come from?
Because well, first of all, people with tattoos tend to be over neurotic, a little bit more neurotic than the average person. They also tend to be looking for attention. There's something with that I think. So a lot of the times when you see somebody with tattoos, they're also, what they basically are, is a trading lifestyle channel. That's what they're doing. So they're down someplace. There's one guy I can think of. He's down in South America, where everything is cheap, and they're doing all these little things. There's one lovely picture of this mostly tattooed guy. He's beside a pool, with a young lady and a bottle of wine. And I was thinking, you could recreate that.
Sure, this is not just you being jealous, Ian?
No, not really. Not at all. Never. No. Just because I'm in my 50s and it's all over for me now. There's no swimming pool.
Sorry, pal.
But anyway, I was going to say there. But he could recreate. It's a marketing picture, and he could recreate that marketing picture, and worked out for about 80 quid.
Because that is That is not the opening gambit I was expecting. Not
Yeah.
to not to trust anyone with tattoos. That's I suspect that we probably need to do a bit more research on that particular view there, Ian. It's not something I've really ever given.
It's the same
I've not
thing.
really ever given it consideration to and stuff.
Yeah.
To be said.
Well, it's the same thing. Like, say when you meet girls with tattoos, and they tend to generally
Yeah.
be whatever is a little bit more neurotic. So I always think it's the same thing. If we're all the same, then
Interesting.
the same
Every
same
day's a
things.
school.
When they were showing wealth, what wealth are they showing? Like, basically, are they showing the fact that they can spend your subscriptions and rent on, or are they showing actual? I made €1 million trading, or I made €1 million selling subscriptions. So I think a lot of the time what they're just showing is people selling subscriptions, that just showing the profit from the subscriptions. And anyone can do this. Like, I mean, all you need is a small bit of information. Because when you go on TikTok, anybody on TikTok, I've never come across a good piece of trading advice on TikTok, except my own.
Except your own.
Because it's real from the heart. I understand what I've talked about. So on my whole 280 views, whole 5.
There you go.
That's a
Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Blockbuster.
Brilliant stuff. I'm tearing up the with that. But anybody can try it, because when you go on TikTok, you get all these young guys, and they are content providing because they're really earnest when they're saying, and then it comes down to the trend line, and then it's there, and what you need to realize is that the neckline is over there, and whatever. And you're like, okay. So I find a lot of them are factually wrong. A lot of the times it's factually wrong. And also that way of providing information is so small for something so complex. It's like trying to explain how to take out an appendix of a person, or do heart surgery on a person through TikToks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not the right medium.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it. Yeah,
it's not the right medium for doing it, I don't think.
No, I don't have. Listen. If you're a great trader and you've done really well for yourself, and you want to buy yourself a Lambo and drive around, fair play to you. I've got no. I've got no issue with that and stuff. If you've worked your ass off and stuff and done it, achieved it, fair play to you. All right, you'll never get a complaint from me. It's just that the vast majority of the young lads just haven't, have they? Really, that's the long and the short. That's the long and the short of it and stuff. And that and what it is they're selling hope. And that's the thing that it upsets me. They are selling hope to people that basically you don't have to do any work. You don't have to. You can just literally just follow them and stuff, and then you'll have that same lifestyle. Right? The selling a lifestyle. It's not about trading in any way, shape, or form and stuff. And that's what starts to. For want of a better word, that's what starts to boil my piss when I see these things. I probably shouldn't be using language like that, but I feel strongly enough about it, because actually, trading is it is not some sort of passive income role that allows you to do it. In many ways, it will be the most active and intensive work that many of you will ever do. And you need to be ready and prepared for that. You need to basically to embrace that. That's part of the grind of becoming the best trader you can be.
Well, that's part of the thing I see with it. It's like, you see people advertising high win rates. Like occasionally you see on some of these channels, and somebody's like going, "Oh, I have a 96% win rate."
Yeah,
is basically what they're advertising there is that is success with no pain. That's what they're basically. And it doesn't matter if you have 6% success rate. Your RR is completely wrong. You're still going to lose money.
I bang on about this all the time. You can have a 98% hit rate, but if you only win $1 when you're right and you lose $100 when you're wrong, it doesn't matter. If you've got 98% hit rate, you'll still be wrong and you'll still lose money. And that's the thing, is people are attracted to that, because people would sooner be right than win money. That's the real of it. People have a real need to be right rather than to generate money and stuff. And that people feed into that, right? People feed into that and offer that, as you say, the solution to avoid the pain. All right, human beings, they think they're being smart by trying to avoid the pain, when in fact, actually, the only way to being what I would term a DEX trader, disciplined, effective, and consistently successful, is to actually to go through that pain. Yeah, that pain is part of the internal change. That pain is part of your growth. That pain is part of you recognizing that actually trading is an innately counterintuitive endeavor for most humans. I would say I've probably only met, I'd say, 3 people who I would claim to be real natural traders, real absolute natural traders. Everybody else, myself included, I've never considered myself a natural trader. It's been something that you've had to just work at again and again and again and again and again, and just keep working at. It's not something you can just basically slack off on, is it?
No. I was also thinking as well why people watch a lot of these. Sure, quite a bit into this. We haven't named anyone yet or anything. Why people watch them, and I think it's a lot of the same reasons why people watch lottery or buy lottery tickets. Because when you buy a lottery ticket, in reality, you're not buying a chance to win, because it's 1 in 66 million or something to win the Irish lottery. It's some mad amount of whatever thing like that. What you're doing is you're actually buying the ability to dream for a week. You're having a really bad time. You pay your €5, you get your 2 lines in the lottery. You have, although a minuscule chance, it allows you to dream. It allows you to escape the reality that you're in at that moment of time. Yeah. And I think it's a process. And I think what people do then is they do the same thing watching YouTube videos or watching TikToks, especially TikToks. Is that they engage with it. They don't have to do any work, and they come out the other side with a feeling of having accomplished something, and they can then now draw on their future success, because your body does not know the difference between your thoughts and what's in reality. So if you are dreaming from success, that's future success, you're already experiencing that success.
Yep.
Internally, so you get that dopamine hit and that whole thing. So, and I think it's the same thing which you see with an awful lot with young men. Young men talk about when they will do something, when they are successful, when they are going through relatively hard times sometimes, with using that as a means of surviving difficulties in their life at that particular moment of time. They're dreaming about when it's over and they're successful and eventually everybody respects them and all this kind of stuff. And I think one of the reasons why men our age tend to die commit suicide at such rates is because you run out of that. You can't do that anymore because you are where you are and there isn't that much more time left. So I think that's one big thing. And I think that's why people watch a lot of trading videos, are engaging in trading to a certain extent, because it's just a different way of buying a lottery ticket for them. Emotionally, it's just a different way of buying a lottery ticket. And I think that's why some of these TikTok creators, particularly, which mostly are a waste of time, do so well.
Yeah. No. That's it. Yeah, I think it's something I have seen, and maybe others would agree with this, maybe others disagree. Something I've seen grow, certainly I'd say in the last 6-7 years. It's kind of accelerated from after the lockdown because people were bored. But if I think about it, like 10, 15, 20 years ago, there were a few kind of major names you might know. So for example, like Larry Williams, all right, he's well known, well respected. And people would follow him and find his preachings pretty good, pretty useful. And he also had the fantastic accolade, of course, his daughter, the actress Michelle Williams. I think didn't she win he taught her to trade and stuff. And I think if she didn't win the US Trading Championship, she scored very highly and stuff. So you had some real fantastic credibility and credence there. The late great Mark Douglas, he wrote a couple of good books. All right, maybe the first one is a tough, very disciplined trade, but that's more because he clearly had a poor editor. But Trading in the Zone is still regarded as just like one of those kind of seminal trading books you need to read. He did a few videos and stuff, and you can find them up, and he still talks great stuff. Van Tharp was the same. Okay, he spoke that, but in this last 6-7 years, as we have seen the growth of social media platforms, in particular things like Instagram and TikTok, there's no barrier to entry. Everybody can just basically set themselves up and, as you say, sort of turn up in a Lambo, which they've rented for the day, and then sort of proceed to spout off nonsense. And, it's that thing of, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, and so, your young man turns up, uses a few kind of technical trading terms, and that appeals to somebody who's got absolutely no knowledge or understanding of what's really involved in the endeavor of trading and stuff. And it's, it kind of, it kind of, as I said, feeds into my bugbears of people selling hope rather than realizing, trading is a fantastic endeavor. I love it to bits, but you have to work at it. You have to work at it, and it will slap you in the chops, now and then. It just happens to everybody. That's part of the gig of it. But yeah, that kind of it's almost like being an explosion. If I don't really use Instagram a great deal, but every time I turn it on, I'm just like bombarded with like messages from these mostly guys in Dubai, trying to sort of sell some lifestyle to me, and they're content creators. They're not traders, and and that annoys me. All right, that's that kind of winds me up because they're as I said, they're selling hope, aren't they?
Yeah, and also one thing that when I was doing research for this, I didn't realize how profitable finance channels are. Like they're one of the big categories, and they're really low.
Really?
Like
That makes sense.
some of the guys doing podcasts have no more overheads than we have, which
Yeah,
it's cost me 150 euros, I think, to get to this stage of setting up whatever on YouTube. But they have really good marketing and they do a more polished product. But finance channels are wildly profitable. It's not unusual in some of the big ones to see like 1 million hits. And if you look at the cost between doing a Mr. Beast video, I only know because I have a child. He's producing huge amounts of videos, he's getting huge amounts of hits, but the cost in producing those videos is amazing. Where finance channel, we can sit there and talk about ROI or some of whatever, trend lines or something. There's no real overhead to it. So I think it's a big thing. One of the other things I thought when I was going through this is people follow a lot of like basically hedge fund traders or investors rather than traders, although sometimes they get the two mixed up, like Buffett or whatever, these people who all have good and interesting things to say. But there's two things: is that you are not operating in the same world as them, and to a certain extent, and a lot of the advantages that you have as an individual person with your volume advantage, because that means you can get in and out. I mean, for somebody with one of these huge funds, it can take them multiple days to get in and out of a position, where you can just exit, because if you have 1,000 shares in something, and I think somebody told me it was up to 10,000 shares or something like that for most things, they found it relatively easy to get rid of. So it's, you're given your advantage of speed, which is the biggest advantage. You might be the minnow on the back of these people, but you have an advantage over them. And so sometimes you're watching the wrong people.
Taking the wrong lesson.
Yeah.
No, there's a fair bit of that because lots of people will follow people like, as you say, Buffett or the late great Charlie Munger. I always like preferred Charlie. I thought he's fantastic, and I would happily listen to him all day, because actually he is an interesting guy who's clearly successful and done very well for himself. But they're not really going to be any help to me in like trading cable in the post CPI data this morning and stuff. Anything from Buffett or Munger is not really of any real relevance to you and stuff. But and then you do have like some of the guys and girls who are on the kind of, let's say, the Bloombergs of this world, the financial medias, etc. they're all well and good. They're all fine and stuff, and I'm sure they've all done very well to get to that particular level. All right, but they are not operating in the same arena that we are. We're Ewoks. We eat what we kill, eat what you kill. That's what you are. You're an Ewok. You are a small little furry animal running around. Sticking your spear in what and when you can. Right, and you have to realize that's your part of the that's your part in the ecosystem and stuff and what have you. And you have to learn to play within that. All right, not trying to think that you're axe capital. All right, not think that you're Axelrod in billions. All right, when in fact you're just some chump in your basement on a 50 pence a point spread bet. On $1. It's not really the same world, is it?
No, it's not. When I watch Billions, I can't understand. Well, there's two things that annoy me about Billions. One is their screens, because they're all fake screens. But the second thing about it is that why can't you just be happy? You're a billionaire. You've got $10 billion.
Yeah, but that wouldn't make for a good drama show.
No,
I think I was going to say Billions for the first couple of seasons was very good because it actually was there was some interesting trading stuff, conversations there. But after that, it just turned into the drama, didn't it? Just turned into a repeatable drama and stuff. It's disappointing in that sense.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's just, again, it was a thing. I think an awful lot of people, and anybody who was interested in the that whole trading and that sort of fantasy lifestyle of trading would have watched it for the exact same, for that particular reason, because a lot of what they're doing it's a lifestyle show. A lot of it is a lifestyle show. They're wearing the nice watches, they're drinking the nice drinks, they're doing whatever. One thing I just wanted to point out as well, that some of these great traders were incredibly lucky. Because I only think about it there, there's one trader, he won huge amount of stuff, turned 10,000 into 18 million. You can go and look him up. And he was on his last legs, basically. He was running out of money. His trading career hadn't worked. And then this huge, incredible trend came along, this multi-year trend came along, and that's what saved him. That's what effectively saved him. That's not to take at all from the trading prowess.
Yeah.
But it's just that there was a certain degree of luck. God, I'm starting to sound like I'm grumpy or something. I think with this, lucky and young and tattoos and girls, and I have none of that. I have to stay in my house and
you're right. There is I have been pilloried in the past for talking about luck and its role in life. All right, and I have when I look back at my life, I consider myself mostly lucky and fortunate. But I've also been unlucky. A lot of it is perception, isn't it? But there are people who have been in the right place at the right time and have done well because of that reason. And if they're smart, they recognise that and use that as a tool to work at to get better. All right, but there are a lot of other people who were lucky in the right place at the right time, and it goes to their head and it fills them with hubris that that they are a legend in their own lunchtime, and then invariably the story takes a different turn at some point and stuff. But anyway, certainly I have seen, because you switch on YouTube, and of course probably the people watching this are probably bombarded by the same the same kind of a huge amount of like trading adverts and stuff. Most of them rubbish. All right, most of them, once again, selling a bit of lifestyle. There's one individual I see quite a lot and stuff and what have you. We won't go into his name, but it rhymes with double decker, and and basically selling lifestyle. All right, selling lifestyle, selling how easy it is to trade, how you don't need to do any work, how his software does it all for you. Okay, just selling hope, selling a dream, selling opportunity. But the reality is that it's mostly nonsense. It is mostly nonsense and stuff. And so it's a that's the sad world we live in.
It is. Other things that I thought were bad with when I watched these guys is traders with too many screens. I just don't like it. It just annoys me as well, because there's only a certain amount of information that you can take in. You don't need 16 screens around you. You just don't need it. I cannot think of something that you can do in your life that you need more than 2 screens for, because you can only concentrate on a certain amount of stuff. You can lose alerts for everything else. It just doesn't do it.
Only,
Penny stock.
I would I would have an interesting point to that stuff in terms of, so I would normally have like 6 screens to work off, but what
Okay.
I would suggest is that I was trained by the Air Force as a young man to basically to be able to operate at a huge deluge of data and info. I used to sit in front of
Yeah.
4 screens there and stuff, controlling aircraft, controlling jets. So I'd been trained up to being able to use and operate comfortably at that kind of level of information coming in. Most people don't have that training. And so what I would see is when people would come to my office and stuff, they would immediately get screen envy and be like, oh, yeah, I want to go, I want to buy 6 screens, 8 screens, etc. And they'll always be surprised when I tell them, you don't actually need that. You don't need that at all. All right. Maybe 2 screens is fine. Maybe one for your charts, one for your execution platform. But the reality is, if you can't trade on one screen, reality is you're not going to be able to trade on 6 screens. All right.
Mm.
If you have the right skill set and you have an edge, it's something that can help you leverage your edge. If you don't already have an edge, you don't know what you're doing, then all it's going to do is make you lose quicker, faster,
Mm.
deeper, etc. So that would be my take on screens.
I presume in some ways then I'd change it and say it'd be a bit like indicators, because every indicator has to give you
Yeah.
something different. You can't, there's no sense in having two oscillators,
Yep.
for instance. So I suppose maybe if every screen carries a certain piece of pertinent information that you might use, something might help with volume, for instance, or a trend line. Like I use two different systems to, like, I think one of the reasons why I don't tend to use more than one screen, I have one big screen, that's all I have, is because first of all, I'm only trading one instrument at any time. So I'm not
Yeah.
doing multiple things. I'm not looking at different shares all the time. Second thing is that I keep a lot of it in my head. So I'm using two different systems. I'm using a traditional technical analysis system and I'm using a Fibonacci system of my own creation. So the technical analysis gives you a certain amount of information, and then the fib is where you would sharpen it all up. So it tends to be, so I wouldn't have all the information is kept in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, or it's just kept in one place. Selective showing of trades. Anybody can be right. If you do 100 trades, you're going to get one trade that's going to work. It's just except when you're learning. I always think there was one period I went through, because I think every trader goes through a period where they think, if I just did the opposite to what I'm actually doing, I'd be profitable. And then they try and do the opposite to what they're actually trying to do. They think they go long, they end up shorting and so on. But I hate the selective showing of trades there are reasons to do it. If you are explaining something, and you're saying that this is, how to draw a trend line, this is what you would have done here,
Yep.
so on and so forth. But I think the person has to have some sort of backup to that. There has to be some way that you can determine that they're actually a live trader, a real trader that's surviving in the stock market. Because really, in fact, anybody watching this should go and Google scams, trading guru scams, and watch some of the videos about it, because some of the biggest names are in trading
Yeah.
content are doing things like sim accounts, and am I seeing that myself? Like I was talking to another guy one day, and he was running the Facebook groups at the time, and it was a massive Facebook group and a sim account. He was running a sim account. I just said, and he didn't block it out properly.
Yeah. I find I tend to show more of my losing trades. We'll put up losing trades to show to people who are like starting their journey that even if you've got a great system, it fails. B, even if you've got trading experience, you can still screw up. You can still miss things, right? You can still be wrong. You can still, make a mistake because you're a human being. There's no perfection. There is absolutely no perfection in trading, as much as some of us may strive for it on occasion.
No, that's very true. I tend to do, like, I have all my trades are on at the moment. I only started a few weeks ago doing everything on Telegram, and that has had weird effect on me so far, where because like I'm providing part of my trading. The first week was difficult because I was suddenly out in public, and it's a difficult thing to do something in public that you did in private for many years. And then you're trying to provide content almost, for the thing. And I find it really, it's something that I have to learn. And I've noticed in the last week, where I wasn't on point, and I was noticing that I felt more pressure to trade than I normally would have. Where pre-Telegram, I would
Yep.
have just gone meh, having a bad week, or not even a bad week, just a base week. And with the Telegram thing, like I felt like yesterday I felt sick. I went to bed for the afternoon. I still sat up there and tried to do trades, which was just, and I'm
Yeah.
sitting after it going, that's just nuts.
Yeah.
I had it. Now, saying
Yeah.
that, I did move to MES.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I was only trading a single contract in MES. So the worst I was going to do was lose $50, and the most I was going to do was make $100 or something. So there wasn't anything
Too
too
drastic.
too drastic in it. Like, so it wasn't a big huge problem.
I would say that it's interesting feedback that that now you're running that Telegram channel that
Mm,
you're feeling a pressure to trade.
mm,
And I might have said it in one of the season one things. I know I've said it to many people in the past. Is that years ago, um, I used to make money by fading other traders' signals because an individual who's done very well for himself and is very well accomplished, etc. You know,
mm.
um, he used to run a signal service and stuff, and I could tell having done significant courses in psychological warfare and on the battlefield and stuff, you weirdly become very attuned to people's psychological state. It probably helps me in trading in many ways, but I would be able to tell from his state of voice, the kind of
Okay.
confidence and belief in his trade calls. And because he was feeling pressured to make trade calls because people were paying to be in his signal service, that's basically, I would just invariably, I'd be able to sort of see. So when he would be croaking away, oh my word, oh, I think, oh dear, oh God, I think we're going to go long dollar yen. I think we're going to go long dollar yen. That would be my signal to short dollar yen. I would just basically take the other side. I would fade that guy's trades and stuff and what have you. And I suspect I probably made more money from it than he did and stuff because he was feeling pressured. He wasn't in confidence, wouldn't have any
Mm.
belief in his trading system, and invariably most of his trades failed, which just added to the pressure that he was under to basically to do those trades, etc. So be careful what you wish for when you're doing these kind of things.
Because some of those traders that you see that do trade live, they are trading massive positions. A lot of the traders that I've seen trading live aren't, in some ways aren't that special, in their actual technical skill. Now they're good. I don't want to knock their trading ability or whatever,
Yep.
like, but they're not that special. There are. But the thing is, what they have an ability to do is that they have an ability to bet massively on a
Mm-hmm.
position, where you get some people who are going in, if I went in and I did 3 contracts or 5 contracts or whatever it is, or some occasionally I might do 10 contracts. That's the limit. Like that's where my psychology starts turning out. And it's a different where these guys might be doing starting at 20, which is still it's 1,000 a point, like basically. Yeah. So that's a significant amount of money. And I find that's what they're doing. So they're not particularly making more points per trade, or they're not particularly making more doing better. Because sometimes when I'm watching these guys and I have them on live just for interest, and I'm trading at the same time, I'm still like, why would you do that trade? That trade doesn't make sense to me. Not that I'm a better trader. I am not, absolutely not a better trader. But yeah, it's just that a lot of the time I think that they're a lot of these guys get famous as much for their position size as they are for their
Yeah,
actual trading
no,
skill.
that's a fair point. Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
it's a yeah, so it's yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
no, that's a very good. It's a very it's a very good, very valid point and stuff. And then you have to wonder why people are following them just because they're betting big. Do you know what I mean? Is it because they actually want the drama of seeing that person fail? When
That's
they
the same thing. It comes back to the dream, like, because people
yeah,
people enter trading and particularly men enter trading because if you're entering trading, I've never met anybody who's just entered it because they like numbers and charts. It's because they're entering it because they want to have status. They want to have a status change. They want to get something. They want to move their life to a different place. In some ways, And even I was just watching some YouTube video there about Ukrainian soldiers that were in from prison battalions, and a lot of them were expressing for a different reason the same things. They had lost their status in society, they'd lost their masculinity, and they saw this joining the army and going fighting the Russians as a way of reclaiming that. They had a dream of going from being a blight on society to being a hero, a societal hero. And I think that traders, which are mostly men, tend to end up want to do the same thing. They get pushed along by the same forces. They want to be somebody else, and trading is the way that they're going to achieve that. And then by watching somebody who trades big and shows it in the right way. Because the other thing too is that there's another guy, which is I've only was going to name two people today. One of them is this guy called Trades by Matt, which I think is quite a good YouTube channel. And he makes quite a lot of money, but he actually comes across as being really humble when he's doing it. And then he's not getting the following because he's not like, yeah, I'm the man so much. Yeah. And I think that's a thing. He's not producing that fantasy lifestyle.
No,
at the same time, yeah. So I think that's a big draw for people.
The kind of the one of the bugbears I have, and one of the things I kind of express to people, and because listen, you're trading at home on your own. It's a bit boring. It's lonesome. It's understandable that you might want to follow people. That's absolutely fine. No shit. And to be fair, it might sound as if we've been terribly negative, but there are some good people out there doing good stuff, providing good stuff, and that's grand. I think my one thing would be that the thing I've seen, the thing I take against is when an individual, let's a guru, for want of a better word, they are exceptionally stringent about the only way to trade markets is their way. If you're not trading their way, then you're nothing, you're nobody, you're a rubbish trader, etc. And that always, once again, that boils my piss, because it is absolute nonsense, right? Absolute utter nonsense. There are 1,000 different ways to engage with markets. And the most successful one for you will be the way that basically aligns most with your personality, your characteristics, your behaviors, the external factors, your own particular goals and objectives, etc. There are 1,000 and more ways to trade markets. And somebody just saying that the only way to trade is their way is, that in itself, which should be an absolute red flag at the moment. Okay. That's absolute nonsense. That kind of dogma. It's upset people by saying it's like certain elements of the Catholic Church in Ireland and stuff and what have you. Their way is the out way, and if you're not on that way, then you're a heretic, etc. And it's utter nonsense. It's utter nonsense. There are a million and one ways, okay, to engage with markets, and finding the ways that are most suitable to you is in many ways your endeavor. In many ways, your endeavor is finding your little tribe within a tribe might well be and stuff, because of the unique elements that you bring to your trading. And you need to understand them. You need to mitigate the weaknesses, leverages the strengths, and find that way that works for you to engage with markets. So yeah, if you're watching, listening, if you're finding people, you're listening to a guy and he's disparaging of every other way to trade and just says the only way to trade is his way, then I would take that as a red flag. He's probably a bit of a dick, but there you go. Don't quote me on that. So where would you stand on that, Ian?
Yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't matter what way you trade. It just matters whether you succeed or fail, at the end of the day, because the thing is, it's all about making money. There's no other, and if you could do that by charting the stars or something, then good luck to you. It's very hard, I think, when you have a system and you believe in a system, not to kind of push your system or push your time frame, because that's what you have faith in. So if you're going to go out and tell somebody to, if you really liked Locks, there's a Tommy something, it's one of these criminal films, and he's telling the guy to go and get himself a Glock because of the best pistol in the world. It's because it's a belief, it's a belief system.
Yeah.
So I think that's not, but just sitting there and saying the only way that you can trade is my way, that's nonsense, because there's more than one way to do this kind of thing.
Totally. Totally.
The quickness, the way that a lot of these TikTokers put across is that, they're trying to say that they're simple. You just have to grasp these six concepts, but nobody can make those internal changes. I mean, learning to trade is not just about learning to do chart stuff and enter trades. It's about making internal changes in yourself. And until you make those internal changes in yourself, there's no and you can't do that. You can't do that quickly. Grasping, and there's two different ways of grasping things. There's the sort of logical one where you know that, we say, you logically know if you put your hand in a fire that it will hurt. There's a logical thing with that. Yep. And then there's an internal where it becomes part of your subconscious and you internalize it. And that's a much different thing. It's like drug addicts, for instance. If somebody thinks taking heroin, they objectively know taking heroin is bad for them, but emotionally they don't have that same connection. Or same with alcoholics or anybody with any kind of addiction.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I also think as well that a lot of people, one of the largest Telegram guys, and I don't know why he does it, copy trading, letting people copy your trades. I think it's nonsense, because there's two things with it. One is you trying to copy a trade. You're always going to enter later, because the other person will have entered the trade. There's no way that they're not going to enter the trade first and then go and tell people about it. So you're always entering later. You're always exiting later. You might not understand the setup. Yeah. There might be a delay between that person telling you, because they might have got a shock. They might have got a pinch themselves, when they're basically, if they've taken it, they're on the third stop loss of the day. They've just got stopped out. It might take them a few seconds extra to inform everybody else that they have stopped themselves out, which might be one big, huge red bar against you. I think it is a very difficult thing. I mean, everybody tries it. Everybody thinks, okay, if I go and I just do what this guy does, then I'm going to make money. But that's not necessarily so, because it is actually quite a difficult thing to follow the actions of somebody else without your own emotional side of it. So he might do 5 trades and he might lose the first 3, and then you're reluctant on the last one, and that turns into a big winner. So, there's a lot of, you might change your position size where the trader you're following is using a constant position size because you have an emotional reaction to the losses. There's a lot of things that they might have had a really good time recently. So you bet oversize your positions. I think it's a dangerous business. And I think also on top of that, I think as a content provider, allowing people to do that is difficult, because you're effectively taking some responsibility for their trades, and they won't be happy about it when it doesn't go well. And there are going to be periods of time where it doesn't go well, and the thing where it blows up, can simply blow up for them. So you are going to take the blowback. You're getting no money for it, so they're not getting paid most of the time. And you're going to get the blowback from it, so welcome to death threats and all sorts of things, which I've seen in times with people complaining about, you lost me loads of money. No, you tried to follow me and you lost loads of money. Don't do it. Learn to trade, or don't get into it, or give your money to somebody else to do it that you have done your due diligence.
Exactly. They want a blame hand.
Yeah.
That's what they want, a blame hand. They want someone that they can, if it goes wrong, they can blame. Oh, well, I followed your rules, etc. So, let's follow your trade signals. So it's your fault, not my fault. Abdication of responsibility. Yeah,
it's bananas. The last guy I wanted to mention that I like to follow, which I followed quite early in my career, is a guy called David Halsey, who does a fib system. Now, the pure system, in my opinion, doesn't work. Right, I can't get it to work anyway, and I think most people can't really get it to work at the moment as it is. It used to be quite good, especially in oil and things like in commodities. It used to be really quite good. But the thing is, what it does now, in saying that, I personally know traders who trade that system successfully. It's what I should really say and reiterate, say properly, is but it is what it did end up doing was it formed the basis of my trading system, my current trading system. So I took the rules, and one of the things for actually quite a low price is that it's like a complete trading system. So you get the idea of how to build a trading system. You learn how to use Fibonacci ratios properly, if you like that sort of thing. And do your own due diligence. Don't just listen to some randomer like me off the internet. But I think it was quite good. I found it quite useful, but I think that you have to add in things and make it your own, because that's what you're really doing with systems. Because that's another thing as well with trying to copy trade and to do these things, is that these systems might not fit your psychology.
Yeah,
and
totally.
And so consequently, you're not going to be able to make a success of them. So you have to do your own due diligence. But I just found it a very good place to get quite a lot of information for quite a reasonable price. Was David Halsey.
Yeah, right, fair enough. No,
Yeah.
and that is the thing, that you can learn something, you can learn a method or a system, and it might. What I generally tend to find is the people who do well, they have learned a few different concepts, and it is their ability to meld that into their own method, into their own approach, is what actually gets them across the gain line, and actually gets them into a position of being a disciplined, effective, and consistently successful trader. Melding all these the elements of all these methods that resonate with them into their own particular style that they can follow with consistency. So, listen, let's draw to a close in. Well, to be fair, we could talk about this all day, couldn't we? Really, and stuff. People we've seen, people we've noticed. Actually, I'd say that. I'd say we've been okay, because this could have been a podcast where it could have really turned into a real proper slagging session of individuals we've seen over the years. But I didn't. Well, neither of us wanted to turn into that, do we? I think it's more about making people aware of red flags, and also realizing, there are some good people out there. There's some stuff you can learn as you're part of your journey, but it's not a panacea. It's not the end paradise. Okay. It's just part of you having to do the work yourself, isn't it? That's the long and the short of it.
Yeah, you have to. And it's just that you're looking for, there's nothing really, I think, that's on YouTube that you couldn't mostly get out of a standard technical analysis text with all the extra noise of them. And I think that YouTube's great if you're trying to clear a gutter or something like that, but I don't think it's really also the medium, because I had to do that recently in YouTube. But I don't think it's necessarily should not be. I don't think it should be your primary way of learning to trade. I think it should be an adjunct to how you're learning how to trade. It should be a tool. Yeah, it should be a tool to help you, but yeah, that's all it should be, right? And just to remind that these people, if somebody has a really polished, really a channel like that, a lot of the time, that's a full-time job. So they might not necessarily be actually even trading sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
You just have to be careful. You just have to be careful, and I think that's the most important thing with all of this stuff.
No, that's a fair point. I'd agree with you there and stuff. So cool. All right, some great points there, Ian. So listen, thanks everybody for joining us today. Okay, hope you found it useful. Listen, as always, for those of you who subscribe and comments and questions, that's great. If you listen to this, and if there's honestly, if there's people you think are good, by all means, put it in the comments. If there's people who you've had, dubious experience with, all right, well then, you're welcome to put those in the comments. Next week is TOGS 29, and actually it was already in our schedule. This was going to be about psychological stop losses, about how do you use them, and basically that's probably quite apt based upon the fact that that's what I've been operating under for the last few weeks and stuff. So, next week we'll talk about psychological stop losses, the importance of them, and actually how we can use them, and when and why we should particularly use them. So, I hope you'll join us for that. As always, thanks very much, Ian. I hope you have yourself a great trading week, as for you all, and we'll speak to you soon, everybody. Trade well. Cheers.